nice to kick off this series with you as our first guest. I'm very excited for Bestever Marketer interviews that we're starting off. These are short 5 to 10 minute series where we interview really world-class marketers such as yourself, and we'll try to get a lot of information out there about how people in the marketing world are thinking about tech and, the hottest thing, AI, and is it taking our jobs? Is it making our jobs easier? We'll get into that a little bit. For those, I know you, Adam, and we've talked a little bit, but I'd love for you to take the next minute or so just to give the viewers a short intro.
I'm Adam. I actually grew up in Hawaii, studied international politics in college, and started out my career bouncing around tech sales and even the '08 presidential campaign before finding my way to digital advertising. So eventually I co-founded a performance marketing agency called Metric Theory back in 2012. We were very much the cliched bootstrap San Francisco startup. We were working out of my co-founder's apartment in the marina. But the great thing about paid search advertising and performance marketing is that if you're good at it, it's really pretty easy to put your money where your mouth is and to demonstrate value. And we had a terrific team that had worked together previously. We had a really strong sales DNA, really strong digital marketing DNA, and really strong commitment to hiring and developing the strongest people, which especially as a services business, your product is your people. And so we really leaned into that. And so we grew pretty steadily, working with lots of tech and D2C e-commerce businesses. We kept adding new services every couple of years, from paid search to paid social, programmatic, product feed management, and eventually performance creative services as well. March 2020, we kind of saw our business life flash before our eyes. It was a really scary, probably 4 to 6 weeks of, a number of clients going out of business and pausing all their ad spend and, a lot of the tumult that everyone was obviously feeling at the time. COVID eventually ended up being a pretty strong tailwind for a lot of our clients in the B2B SaaS space and D2C e-commerce. And so, after the scare of those 6 weeks, we did actually pick back up to a much more rapid growth pace, but decided to explore an acquisition later in that year and closed a deal on New Year's Eve of 2020, actually, with S4 Capital, Sir Martin Sorrell's shop, now doing business as Monks. And so we kind of became the performance marketing arm in North America for Monks. I led that unit for the last several years and left in April to take a little bit of time off.
I mean, as a founder, I can empathize with sort of putting together a strong team and building from scratch, especially when you don't have sort of that, VC money coming in and you're focused on bootstrapping. It's truly an awesome journey. I'm curious, what was the hardest part for you off the journey?
It's tough all the way along. I think there's different challenges at different stages. In the first month, getting that first client is absolutely a massive challenge. When you get asked, who else do you work with? And the answer is, well, hopefully you pretty soon. I think nailing that first client is really significant. We opened a second office in Denver pretty early on, and I think opening a second office and maintaining culture, even after you've built culture in your primary office, that was a massive challenge. COVID was definitely the scariest period, like I mentioned before, where, again, that first 4 to 6 weeks, we really didn't know. We had a thriving, profitable business one day, and a couple weeks later, it was, are we going to have to shut this whole thing down? So, I think those were a few of the challenges and or scarier moments that definitely stand out.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And that sort of transitions nicely into the next question that I was going to ask. In your experience, what are the biggest challenges agencies face, other than, of course, as you already pointed out, hiring the right people, the culture, but especially with performance marketing? I'm curious what you think are the big challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I'll really focus a little bit on the creative side, which I know is right up your alley. That was actually the last service that we added. We started off as a performance media agency, running digital media across all of the major digital platforms, but increasingly saw that creative was really becoming the largest performance lever that you could pull, and so we needed to jump into that. And I think really the challenge there is that it gets deprioritized, and that results in really lower volume and lower quality than what is required for success. So, to expand on that a little bit, I think especially on the major platforms, Google, Meta, even TikTok, there's been a move toward broader targeting and subsequently larger audiences, more reliance on algorithmic ad serving, bidding, budgeting. And that really means two things. One, creative becomes arguably the biggest performance lever that you can pull, like I just mentioned. And two, you really need to feed the algos with a ton of creative so that there's optionality on which ads to match with which audience subsets. And so, a lot of orgs are resource constrained. And so naturally, a new website page, an ebook design, a hero video, all of those take creative precedence over a fifth concept for Meta or two extra variants for each of the existing four concepts that we have. And so I think it also means that, creative might not be designed for performance advertising. It's kind of take the scraps from existing assets and see what you can do with it. And so I think all of those things together create a big challenge for performance marketers, where if you don't have enough creative, if you don't have strong enough creative, it's really going to be tough to see success. And I do think that's a bigger deal now than it was 10, 12 years ago, when so much of the spend was just on Google ads with text ads that you didn't need to rely on creative output.
When we work with agencies, often the reason is because they want to be able to help their customers to generate all these creatives, even though the customer might not have the expertise. A lot of agencies just taking this on, especially with the AI. Advent of AI is probably helpful there. That kind of segues to my next question, which is, how do you see AI and automation impacting the creative process within performance marketing agencies?
Yeah, so much. I think obviously common trope now, AI is disrupting just about every industry, but I do think creative within marketing more broadly is one of the categories it's going to disrupt the most. And so really harken back to what are the challenges that performance marketing agencies have with creative right now. It's both volume and quality. The volume side is much more tangible, right? AI is already having a massive impact there. It's going to allow you to, increasingly, upload a lot more raw assets, guardrails, even brand guidelines or a creative brief, and then churn out a whole bunch of different creative concepts from there. I think multiplying an existing concept into different localized markets for older versus younger audiences, male versus female, you're going to be able to kind of personalize that ad creative at a fraction of the cost it is right now.
Do you think agencies should feel threatened by automation tools?
I don't think agencies are going away. One, the more rapid change is happening in the industry, generally that's better for agencies or consultancies. Someone other than the in-house teams, because you have a concentration of experts, right? And so the more that digital marketing gets complex, the more opportunity there is for good agencies who can bring value to be additive there. The quality side is a little bit more nuanced. I think we definitely saw our creative teams using AI to help brainstorm and storyboard new concepts more effectively. I think there's obviously some major questions yet to be answered on, how to responsibly use outside IP to generate images. And then I think the bigger macro trend is going to be, how do you avoid a scenario where every single ad starts to look the same, right? And that is a risk with AI, where there's no differentiation. I'd say even like 5-6 years ago, I mean, even as a consumer, I'm sure you're scrolling through Instagram and starting to say like, kind of every single one of these companies selling me a mattress or sheets or a watch or whatever it is kind of look the exact same. And so, AI wouldn't have ever created Apple's, 1984 ad. So I think that'll be an interesting macro trend to watch as well.
So Adam, what's next for you? I know you'd started taking a break in April, and how has the break been, and have you thought about what you're going to do next?
I would say in the last month or so, I've started to have a lot more conversations with people in my network, and kind of going through the discovery process, and that's been fun. I spent 15 years head down with kind of one singular goal to grow our agency, and it's been nice to be more thoughtful, to do some writing about what we did, what we accomplished with metric theory, reflecting on things that I'm reading, and I think having that extra time has been helpful in developing a process for, okay, what am I really excited about, down the road. But overall, starting to do some work with more companies on go-to-market motions, acquisition strategy, and generally helping them understand the impact of AI on the marketing and advertising space.
Awesome. Well, Adam, I hope you'll share your thoughts with the rest of us as and when you write them out. And if you have any recommendations that we should all be reading that you've enjoyed in the last few months, please let us know. But I really appreciate you taking the time.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Apoorva. This is really fun to talk through all of this. Always excited to share my thoughts on on the impact on the digital marketing space. So I really appreciate the time and the platform.